Okay, welcome again. Good morning to you. My name's Mark Shaw and I'm the Rio ED2 Business Plan Manager. I'd firstly like to welcome you to our first draft business plan and our consultation webinar. The key focus for us today is very much to talk about the business plan, but more importantly to encourage you to participate in our consultation exercise, because our stakeholder feedback is essential to us. Firstly, I'd like to thank you as well for taking the time today. We anticipate that the session will finish no later than 11:45. And what it will do is it will be very much a presentation from me, and then an opportunity for questions to be put to me and some other of my WPD colleagues. I think it's important to understand that we're really keen to get your feedback, but in order to do that, what we've done is we're going to mute you through the whole of the presentation. But if you want to ask any questions, you'll see a button on your screen which has got Q&A. If you type in any questions in there, what will happen is I've got some colleagues from WPD, as in Richard and Michael. They will be fielding all those questions, and then after I finish the presentation, they'll put those questions, or as many of those questions as possible, to me in the time that is permitted. So please use the Q&A function to provide any questions associated with the business plan or the consultation. You'll also see on screen that we've got a chat function. Please use that if you're having any technical difficulties. We have webinar support today from Helpful Digital, and therefore they will be monitoring the chat function. If you have any technical issues you can't hear or you can't see, please type into the chat and they will assist you to try and get you into the presentation. So without further ado, I'll move through the presentation itself. So as I said, what we're doing today is we're going to share with you our first draft business plan. And then what we'll do is we will also talk through the consultation. And it's essential today that, that I want you to be able to go onto our website and feedback on our business plan. But before we talk about that, I just want to talk about what Alistair, can you move the slide on? It doesn't. Sorry, I've got it now. Okay, so setting the scene. So WPD, what are we? So we are the largest distribution network operator in the UK. We serve the West Midlands, the East Midlands, South Wales and the Southwest of England. And that involves 7.9 million homes and businesses. We have a singular focus, which is about delivering affordable and excellent customer service. And we do that by making sure that we keep the lights on, because we understand how important electricity is to our customers, and ensuring that when customers want to be able to connect to our network, that they can. If they want energy, then we want to be able to connect them at an affordable price. How we operate is very much under regulation, and our regulator is called Ofgem, and it operates under price control periods. Now, generally, they are 5 years. However, the one we're currently in is 8. But the one we're going to be talking about is the Rio ED2 price control, and that is 5 years going from 2023 to 2028. So what does Rio mean? So Rio is about our revenues. They equal the sum of the incentives that we can achieve by the work we do, money that we can get from innovation, and also money that we get to deliver our outputs, and we're calling them core commitments for today. So effectively, the regulator agrees how much income we can get to be able to run the business, to ensure that we deliver key performance targets and outputs for our customers. So how did we get to this stage? What we've done is we've had an intense stakeholder engagement program. We've engaged with over 4,500 stakeholders over the period, starting in 2019. And what we do is we always engage every year with our stakeholders. But what we did is we focused very much on ED2 when we got to 2019. I said we've engaged with over 4,500 stakeholders, ranging from bill players to industry, local authorities, charities, consumer groups, and in a range of different activities, including webinars, including focus groups and stakeholder workshops. And our aim is to ensure that our business plan is really supported by our stakeholders, and that what's in there is very much what our customers and our stakeholders want. And our engagement doesn't stop now. we're continuing to engage, and we will be consulting going forward before we actually have to submit our business plan. So if you look at the bottom chart, you can see our timetable for this year. So I've got in there BP1, that's our first draft business plan. That was published last Wednesday on the 27th of January. And what we're doing at the moment is making sure that our stakeholders have an input into that. Look at our plan, tell us, does that actually say what you want us to do? Does it capture what your key priorities are? Does it say, does it deliver what you want? And since we've spoken to most of you as stakeholders previously, has something changed? There's a lot gone on in the UK recently, and obviously COVID is one of the big ones on that. So have priorities changed? And if so, feed those back. What we're going to then do is we'll take the feedback from this consultation exercise, and then what we will do is build that back into our plan, and then we'll republish again in March, and that is BP2. Once we've then gone through the consultation exercise again associated with that, what we will do then is we submit to our regulator on the 1st of July. So before we actually submit our plan to the regulator, we would have gone through 2 exercises of you, our stakeholders, having an opportunity to have an input into our business plan. And we believe that is critical. We want our plan to be fully supported by our stakeholders. Following submission to the regulator, which is BP3 on the 1st of July, their regulator's challenge group will look at our plan. They'll provide some feedback, and there's an opportunity for us to refine it prior to our final submission on the 1st of December this year. So that's our plan going forward. So how did we get to this point? Well, the key is that we want to make sure our plan is supported by our stakeholders, and we followed a process called co-creation. Now, traditionally, if we were going to go out for stakeholder engagement, what we would have done is we would have said, we think these are the things that are priorities for our customers, and we would have gone into a stakeholder workshop and said, this is what we think. What do you think? Are these right or are these wrong? We didn't do that this time. What we did is we started with a blank piece of paper. We've got over 400 stakeholders in a workshop over 6 different times, different sessions across the whole of WPD. And we asked them to put down what they thought their priorities were. And we generated nearly 1,000 top commitments from them. We have then taken those commitments, we've tested those again in further workshops in November, and we have now generated from those 67 core commitments, which we believe reflect the main priorities from our customer base. And those are the 67 core commitments that we're testing with you today. So our business plan, what does it look like? The business plan itself has got about 195 pages, and it's got a number of chapters in there, and our core commitments are listed in chapter 4, our Rio ED2 core commitments. The plan is said 195 pages, and that really reflects what Ofgem have said is in their business plan guidance that we need to have 200 pages in the plan. What we're going to be doing is we will be refining those 200 pages and also all of the additional information that goes into our business plan prior to submission on the 1st of July, hence the reason we're consulting today. Running alongside the business plan, which you can read, there is our consultation document. And this is probably the most important document we have at this moment in time from this point of view. That consultation document talks about the things that we're asking you to feedback on our plan with. It includes the 67 core commitments, and I'll talk about how you can feedback on those in a moment. And it also has some wider questions about our business plan. And that's the way we're going to capture your feedback going forward. But before we get to the core commitments, let me give you some headlines of our plan. We propose to invest around £6 billion in the network over the Rio ED2 period. That's 1.2 billion per year, and that's about 200 million more than per year than we do at this current time. And the reason that investment level has gone up is very much driven by the UK's net zero ambition to be carbon zero by 2050. It is clear to us that in order for the UK to be able to achieve that, that there has to be the ability to encourage electric vehicles, and that means being able to charge electric vehicles, and therefore they need connections to our network, and also for customers to put in heat pumps. And in order for net zero to be achieved, that means we have to make sure we have the capacity on the network available so that when customers do want to connect, they are able to do so. Now, it's a challenging target for EVs and heat pumps, and we have to enable that to happen. Although we're spending more money and potentially the bill could go up by £1.50 for the average domestic customer on a year-by-year basis, what we're looking to do is to drive efficiencies into the way we operate and also to look at our financing parameters. And we're looking and aiming to keep that bill about the same as it is now. So currently, a domestic customer pays £96 per year for their energy. That equates to 26p per day. And our aim is to keep that on or around that same number in ED2. So I said I would come to the core commitments. So we have 67 of them, and they have been allocated across 3 categories, which are given to us by the regulator. They are 1, meeting the needs of the consumer and network users; 2, maintaining a safe and resilient network; and 3, delivering on an environmentally sustainable network. And on the right-hand side, and I won't go through those, there are a range of different activities that sit below those and form our core commitments. Some of our highlights are listed on this slide. And like I said, I'm not going to go through all of them, but I will pick up on a couple. So we anticipate and we want to exceed or match 9 out of 10 for every transaction we have with our customers in ED2. And I assume you will see that's a very high standard. We want to help 75,000 fuel poor customers to save about 40 million over Rio ED2. We want to make sure that low carbon technology can connect to our network at an affordable price to enable the transition to net zero, and that EVs and heat pumps are able to get onto our network. And we want to be a role model. So we want to, in our internal operations, have our business carbon footprint to be net zero by 2043. So there's some of our headlines, but I would like to just draw you to the table on the bottom right in the blue. So our core commitment at the moment on that one is about the business carbon footprint. And we've had from our stakeholders, and they've said to us, we expect you to set the steer. We want you to be a role model for business carbon footprint, and we want you to exceed 2050. So what we put in the plan at the moment is we've put 2043 when we will aim to have our business carbon footprint down to net zero. However, in the consultation, if you as a stakeholder feel that's not ambitious enough, you'll have the option under that core commitment number 40 to say, actually, we want you to do it by 2035. Or actually, we want you to be really ambitious. We want you to do that by 2028. So in the consultation, you'll be able to select those core commitments, and you'll see underneath that, there's a bill impact. It will give you a bit of an indication of how much the bill potentially would go up if we went for those higher level core commitments. Clearly, if we are going to be net zero earlier than 2043, as we have in our plan at this moment in time, there is the consequence that there may be some additional costs, and that is prevalent there. The reality is, to be net zero earlier than 2043 would mean we would have to change a lot more of our fleet to electric vehicles or non-carbon fuel vehicles earlier than we anticipate at this moment in time. So the customers, our stakeholders, have the opportunity to tell us they want us to do more, and that's why the consultation is really, really important. Clearly, on the other side of it, you can say, actually, we don't want you to be that ambitious, and you might want us to be there by net zero 2050, and that would potentially have a bill impact which will lower your bill. Or there's still the alternative option 5, actually you want a different year. You feel there's a different year we should be using, or a different option, and you can comment on that. So we're not being prescriptive of how you feedback. We just want to capture your feedback in the most meaningful way we possibly can. So how do you respond to our consultation? So the key ones are that we have 5 questions associated with our core commitments. Question 4 of which I've just gone through in a lot of detail, how you comment on our core commitment. And secondly, there are some more 8 other questions which talk more about the presentation of our plan, the acceptability of our plan, and some of our higher level priorities regarding how we should be delivering a lower carbon future. So the key is, and what I'm asking you to do is, I would like you to respond to our consultation. And there are multiple ways of doing that. The easiest way and the best way is to go onto our website at that address to the right or at the top, and you'll find there that we have a feedback tool, and that tool will lead you through the consultation and ask you the questions, and you just select the answers as you go through. However, if you don't want to do that, you can actually download a form from the website, and you can then fill in that feedback form and email it to us, or you can just email us direct with your comments, or you can write to us. We're not that prescriptive. You know, the key is we want you to be able to provide the feedback on our business plan and our consultation document, you know, in the most meaningful way and easiest way for you. If you feel you have the time, and you know, I know this is a big ask, if you're able to read the whole of the business plan document, the 195 pages, and also go for the consultation, then for us, that is brilliant, because we'll get the most meaningful feedback we possibly can. However, we do realise that people are time pressed. So if you read the consultation document, which is a 30-page document in isolation, there is enough information in there for you to be able to comment on the plan and also our core commitments. So you will find that you'll be able to give us very, very meaningful feedback on all of that. That has to be done, though, please, by the 28th of February. The reason for that is quite clearly that we need to get a second draft of our business plan out, and that feedback needs to come back to us by that date. So the closing date for the consultation is Sunday, the 28th of February, and whatever level of feedback you give us will be extremely well appreciated. So the next steps and the important bits here. You have my absolute commitment that the feedback we get from you as part of this consultation will be very, very useful and will be evaluated and will feed back into our business plan. That's the key. We wouldn't be doing this exercise if we didn't want your feedback. The timings allow us to provide a second draft business plan. So, you know, we are going to go out in March 2021 with our second draft business plan. So this isn't the end of it. You'll have another opportunity, if you so wish to do so, to comment on our plan before we finally submit. Yeah, and as I said, it is very, very clear that we will be looking at your feedback to influence that plan and change it. And to me, you will see that as we go forward. So I'm going to just leave that slide there for a second or two. Please follow that link or that QR code. You can even take a photo now of that. Or if you just go onto the Western Power website, on the front page of that, you'll find a banner that takes you straight into the consultation. So if you just type in Western Power into your Google search, or any other search engine, you'll find you'll be able to link straight in to our consultation, and you can follow the process there to do our consultation itself. I'm now going to pass over to questions and answers. And when I was doing the presentation, it's quite clear there were quite a few questions that had come in during the presentation. And also, I think we had a couple of questions that had come in prior to the webinar starting. So I'm going to pass over to Richard and Michael to ask me some questions. If it's on the consultation, I might ask a colleague of mine, Alex Wilkes, to also respond on behalf of those questions. And we'll take as many of those as we possibly can to the 11:45. But don't worry, if your question isn't asked, what we will be doing is we will be publishing all of the questions and also all of the answers on our website later. So we haven't forgotten it. It's just that obviously we've got a limited time to be able to get through that. Thank you very much for listening. I think the slides will now disappear, and then I will ask Michael or Richard to ask me the questions that have come up from the audiences. Thank you.
Hi Mark, hi everyone, it's Michael Clark from Western Power Distribution. Thank you to everyone for sending their questions in. They've been coming thick and fast. Please do keep them coming, and as Mark says, we'll get through as many of those as we possibly can. The first question we've had come through, Mark, is from Tessa Saunders. She's actually asked two questions, so I'll ask each one in turn. First question is, Will the business plan set out a delivery programme to achieve the objectives of the plan? For example, will it show when capacity issues will be addressed across the WPD network?
Okay, that's a great question. The answer is yes. At the moment, the business plan that we've submitted is very much a playback of what our stakeholders have said. Yeah, so it is very much our stakeholders have said that these are the core commitments, and we've taken those and said, look, this is what we think we can do to be able to match those core commitments. When we get to our final submission, there's going to be a lot more that come into the plan. So it won't be just the 200 pages. There'll be an annex with a lot more detail of how we are going to deliver against each one of those core commitments. And in lots of areas, we will have strategies. So we will have a strategy about a connection strategy, which answers the second part of the question. So there will be, how are we going to make connections for a low carbon future for the business? And that will be a separate document strategy, which will then identify issues associated, how we're going to make sure that we have the capacity available to be able to enable the net zero future. Thank you, Michael.
No problem. Second question from Tessa for you, Mark. Will areas where significant growth is prioritised be a priority for WPD in addressing capacity and future resilience to avoid the network becoming a barrier to growth?
Brilliant. So that's the last bit of that is critical. We are really wedded to the fact that we don't want the network to be a barrier to growth. We want to enable the network to be able to ensure, and as I said in the presentation, to enable EVs and charging points and heat pumps to be able to be connected when they wish to do so, and distributed generation. One of the things we've done is we've gone out to 130 local authorities to make sure that we capture their net zero ambition. So what speed are they going to be able to ensure that they meet the net zero target? Some areas and some local authorities have very ambitious targets, and others are a little bit later in the program. So by doing that and speaking to the local authorities, we have what we call a future engineering scenario for each one of our regions within the WPD footprint. So each one of our local area footprints, we have an idea of what the future energy scenario looks like for that. And our aim is to keep ahead to ensure that the capacity is available. And by having the capacity available, that does two things. That means that customers connect when they want to, but also they have an affordable connection. And both of those things, I believe, will prevent us having a barrier to entry for EV and heat pumps, etc. Thank you, Michael.
Morning, Mark. It's Richard, and morning, everyone. We had a question in from Tony Denham, who asked. We had two questions from Tony. The first one is: in your web document, you say it's vital that our plans for the future reflect the priorities, needs, and expectations of our stakeholders and bill-paying customers. How have you determined your customer priorities, and when? Where can I find your customer priorities? Okay,
so that question. I guess must have come in before the presentation, but it gives me an opportunity just to reiterate that. We have got ongoing stakeholder engagement we have every year with our customers, so we always feel we're in tune with what our customers want. But we obviously focused in 2019 on the Rio ED2 business plan, and as I alluded to, we had some workshops across the whole of the WPD area. So there were 6 workshops with over 400 attendees, and those workshops were across our licensed areas. As part of those workshops, what we have is we have a range of customers that get invited and coming on, from our domestic customers to generation companies to other DNOs, actually, to other stakeholders, local authorities, community energy groups. So we believe we get a breadth of stakeholder engagement via our consultation exercises. So we did that in February. We did a second workshop in November. That was actually done virtually because of COVID, but it was via Zoom. And those workshops, again, attracted a range of customers, and also all the way across the whole geography of WPD. But the question is absolutely right. We've targeted a significant amount of customers, but the next stage is very much this consultation. So this consultation, we are using social media, we're going out on emails, we're inviting lots of our stakeholders to be able to respond to our business plan. And when you look at the 7.9 million customers we have, we serve a population of 20 million or over 20 million customers. I think this is a great opportunity for us to actually expand that now and get even wider stakeholder feedback coming back. So I think we're going as far and as extensive as we possibly can at this stage.
Thanks, Mark. And the second question from Tony is, WPD covers a very large geographical area of the UK. How have you ensured that your one business plan is appropriate for all customers?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, we have got one business plan, but within that business plan, you'll see a number of strategies, and those strategies, target from the domestic customer to aggregators to distributed energy, to community energy. So I think that within the whole scope of the plan, although it is one plan, we've had feedback from stakeholders on all of the key areas, and we made sure that we've targeted, and those priorities, those commitments have been captured within the plan itself. And we just don't do it ourselves. We make sure that we have external partners that come in and check that we have actually got those core commitments, we have captured that stakeholder feedback, and that when we look at our plan, that we are meeting the needs of the full range of our customer base, because that's important to us. That's essential to us. Thank you, Richard.
Right, next question for you, Mark, which is coming from an anonymous attendee. What customer engagement have you undertaken, and how do they feed into what your commitment should be? Okay,
so I mean, from that perspective, it is very much the customer engagement we've done is those workshops where we talked about co-creation. We had the customers come in with a blank piece of paper, and they told us what our priorities are. We've taken those priorities and we've listed them all through. We've tried to what we call synthesize them down to a number of commitments. And what we will and have done in the plan is we've got 67 core commitments, which we believe are the high level ones that we're talking about at the moment. But that's not it. There are a lot more wider commitments that are all the way through the business plan. And we've been testing those on lots of different workshops and other stakeholder engagement events to get the answer. Now, actually, Alex is our expert on this, so I'll just bring Alex in at the moment, just so he can just go through a little bit more detail on our stakeholder engagement, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course. And good morning, everyone. Yes, Alex Wilkes, External Affairs Manager at WPD. I think Mark's covered a vast amount of it. I think our biggest priority is to try and get the widest diversity of stakeholder views we can. So we've worked, so I suppose there's two ways to answer it. One is we're getting the widest pool. So that means we're focusing on research events with bill-paying customers, people that perhaps don't have a fantastic starting knowledge of WPD, but we take them through sort of a multiple week journey with us of building up their knowledge about our business so that they can comment, because ultimately everyone pays for what we do, all the way through to those almost slightly more where the knowledge and interest of our stakeholders is a little bit higher, coming through to our workshops where people perhaps by virtue of their work or their interests have a much greater knowledge of WPD. The way that we're refining that down, you're in the middle of that process for us, and that's why we're desperate for your feedback. To date, we've engaged those 4,500, which has started from high-level priorities, and I suppose I'll use the phrase we're funneling those down. So hence we've had a huge volume of things in stakeholders' own words, not because we didn't know where to start, but we didn't want to assume. We've been doing huge volumes of stakeholder engagement for years. So there's been big areas we knew would be priorities, but it's been really important we didn't lead the conversation, or didn't lead people, and we've actually given them the opportunity to speak afresh. So we're now in the middle of that funneling. So we're down to the 67 high-level commitments that we're proposing, beneath which there are then over 100 wider commitments. So there's actually, I suppose if you added it up, there's close to 200 commitments within that plan. But in terms of the real headlines we wanted to focus in on, and the key point is we're going to keep coming back to you and show you that journey. So within the consultation document, we've tried to form those links at a high level of stakeholders asked for so far. So this is what we've come up with. And we want to know whether that link's appropriate, whether we've missed something, whether we ought to add to it. So I suppose I'd end my answer by just echoing the Mark's sentiment of we're really desperate for you to respond and give us your views. Thank you.
Hi, Mark. We have a question that's coming from Jasjeet Singh. Decarbonisation comes with lots of caution, reliability, brownouts, power quality, costs, etc. concerns, and improving the scenario analysis along with the transition strategy. Would you be able to plan for an earlier target? And I believe this is in relation to net zero for, say, 2035.
I think the key for us is we are going to plan to whatever the local authorities and UK and UK PLC wants from us. So what we've done is, rather than having an overarching, we will be, as WPD, we will enable the network by this date. What we're saying is we're going to disaggregate it down to the local areas. I know that at the moment, Bristol is looking at 2030. So if Bristol have got high ambitions to make sure they're net zero by 2030, then for us as a business, we need to ensure that we keep ahead of that and enable the network in that area to be able to focus on, to allow them to hit their goals and targets. So I think that's the way we're doing it. We have got lots of really good local knowledge about what the plans are in each one of those areas, what we think are the likely uptake in the EVs and heat pumps going forward, and we will target our investment to be able to enable and keep pace with everything that needs to be done. I mean, I think that's the way it's got to be going forward. Thank you.
Mark, we've had some similar questions along the lines of what Richard mentioned. Another question we had coming in was around the ambitions on net zero and the ambitions of the business proposing to be in net zero by 2043. Yeah. The question is whether we feel that is ambitious enough.
Yeah, I think the key here at the moment is that we as a business are listening to our stakeholders. So we've put down 2043 on the basis of our stakeholders said they want us to go before 2050 and get business carbon footprint before that. We will do whatever is required. So as a business, if our stakeholders say they want us in this consultation to be 2028, then that's what we will do. So I think it is very much, it's not for us to tell our stakeholders what we think is ambitious. It's our stakeholders to tell us what they want, and then we'll respond to that as a business. At the end of the day, our business is about delivering what our stakeholders want at the cost that they want. So, this consultation is a great opportunity for our stakeholders. If that was the general feel, they want us to be more ambitious in 2043, to get onto the consultation. And if every one of our stakeholders says 2028 or 2035, then that's what we will do. And we will finesse that ready for the next business plan. Thank you, Michael.
Mark, on a similar theme, Ginny Michael has asked, if stakeholders overwhelmingly call for higher targets across all or many of the core commitments, which will result in higher bill costs, can you explain in a bit more detail how WPD will balance this and make a final decision on what will be submitted to Ofgem? Does Ofgem set a cap on the potential investment level?
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, at the moment, it's a little bit difficult to us to talk about exactly what the final bill would look like at this moment in time, because we are missing one bit of information from the regulator regarding the financing of the package. So I can't talk specifically about that at this moment in time. If all of the customers say they want the higher level of ambition, what we will then do is we'll look at that. We'll obviously look to deliver it and then see what the bill impact potentially could be. Ultimately, what we want to do is to try and keep that bill as low as we possibly can. So we will then, we've already put lots of efficiencies into the program, but we'll see if that, once the financing parameters come out, once we look at the program as a whole, how we can deliver that at the most efficient way possible to keep that bill impact as low as possible. I think once you look at the consultation exercise, we are only talking about, and I'd say these are only minor, but it depends who you are, small impacts on the bill regarding the consultation. But our aim would always be to keep that as low as we possibly can at all times.
Thanks, Mark. We've had a few questions coming through from people who are requesting for copies of the slides and also asking for a link to the consultation. So what I suggest that we will do following this webinar is we'll send emails to everybody who's participated today to give them a copy of the slides and a link so that they can make the comments on the consultation themselves. but there's loads more questions coming in. I don't know whether we'll be able to cover all of these, but I'll try and rattle them through. So the next question, Mark, with an aging workforce and 35% of the talent pool in the field retiring in the next 5 years, how are you going to ensure you meet these targets? So I think it's specific to the aging to the workforce resilience. Okay.
Yeah, I think, I mean, clearly with an aging workforce, you do have a workforce that are able to work a lot longer. But in line with that, we do have a workforce resilience plan. And we recognise that as we go into Rio ED2, our workforce is going to look a lot different. We clearly will still need to have, the staff out there working on the network. There's no doubt about that. And what we've got is we've got a fantastic apprenticeship program that we run every year, and we anticipate that apprenticeship program will continue to ensure that we have new people coming in and training to learn the skills to be able to keep the network operating. So we're confident we can do that. And that apprenticeship is our craft skills. It's about our planners. It's about our technicians. So we have quite a very, very extensive program to do that. And we've got a workforce resilience strategy that we'll be releasing as part of the ED2 plan going forward to make sure that we're keeping up with that. But we also recognise that we're becoming a more what we call data-centric business. So as we move into net zero, there's a lot more reliability on digitalisation and data. And therefore we are looking for, and we're looking to recruit new types of individuals to come into the business, new talent that will be able to help us in that field as well. And we believe we're a good employer in the area, and we're looking to demonstrate that via investors and people. And with our workforce resilience strategy, we believe that we will be able to attract the talent pool, which will make us successful through ED2 and beyond.
Thanks, Mark. We've had a question in from Matthew Cullen, who asks, does the business plan address the move from DNO to DSO, and whether these two areas need to be retained under one company or separated, like the National Grid separation?
Okay, that's a great question. Well, I mean, we've got to look at what transition to DSO means. So DSO is distribution system operator, but the long and short of it is whatever happens, there will still be a distribution network operator. So a distribution network operator looks after the wires. And so it's not a transition per se to DSO. It's the fact that within a distribution network operator, you can have what's called a DSO, who are the people that look after how the network develops, how much reinforcement we potentially do on the network. But WPD strategy on this is that we are looking to keep the DSO functions within the business, and we'll be publishing a DSO strategy associated with the business plan. So in the business plan at the moment, you'll see there is a section on DSO, but when we actually go out with the final business plan on the 1st of July, there will be a full DSO strategy. We are currently consulting on that strategy. So we have workshops in February where we're going out to stakeholders to talk about our strategy for DSO and get some feedback on it. So, that's our plan at this moment in time. So there is clearly a lot of information in the plan associated with the DSO. Next question, please, Will.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Got loads of questions from everybody. Thank you for these. The next one comes from Simon Ross. Mark, you mentioned EV and heat pumps. What about connecting new RE, I assume renewable energy generation, to the grid? And do you have any future electricity consumption figures?
Well, yeah, so I did talk a lot about EVs and heat pumps, but it's absolutely right. I mean, we're talking about distributed generation being connected to our network. So what we are, our plan, our future energy scenarios include all of those type of connections that could be made to the network. And I don't have consumption figures at this moment in time because we are actually just re-evaluating what we call our WPD's best view, which is our future energy scenario that we're going to be using in future business plans or business plan iterations. So at the moment, I can't answer on consumption, but yes, it does cover a wider range than just EVs and heat pumps. It talks about distributed generation and how the interaction of power flows on our network will facilitate the way we develop the network. One other thing to mention on that is that clearly our reinforcement plan, i.e. our plan to upgrade the network to deal with capacity, deals with the fact that what we will be doing is we're looking not to actually build new assets as the first point of call. So the first point of call will be to be looking to utilise flexible services under our flexible power brand. And what that means is we would, if we find that there's a peak of demand at any one stage that may potentially overload our network, we can call on local generation to be able to generate at that time to take that, to match that load, so we don't actually have to then reinforce the network. What that means is it's a cheaper option for our customers. So when we're looking at capacity issues on the network, we are talking about, one, making sure we look and see whether there's a flexible solution to that. And if that isn't the case and we can't use that, then what we will have to be doing is then we will looking to reinforce the network, which clearly is where that 1.2 billion per year comes from. I am conscious that we have run out of time. What I would say to everybody is, firstly, thank you very much for your time. We do appreciate you coming along today. Don't worry, as I said before, I covered as many questions as I could within the time that was allowed, but every question that we've had will be written and we will provide answers, and we'll publish it on the website, and we'll certainly make sure that you know where those answers are. We'll also be sending you an email following this presentation to ensure that you've got a link to our consultation. And it really, finally, as we said, thank you very much for your time. I realise time is precious. Thank you very much for your participation. I mean, the fact we've generated so many questions is fantastic, and I look forward to answering all of those. And please, please go on to our consultation, have your say, influence our plan, and make sure that we deliver the plan that you want for ED2. Thank you very much.